To our August 24th, 2022 Board of Douglas County Commissioners business meeting. I want to welcome those of you who are with us at the old courthouse, or as well as those joining us virtually on Zoom. To get us started, I'm just going to share a bit about how we conduct our meetings. Each action item that you see on the agenda will offer an opportunity for public comment specific to that topic. We ask that you wait until the agenda item that you are here for has come up for discussion. Near the start of our meeting, before discussing regular business items, we will invite folks to offer general public comment, which is for items not on today's agenda, but related to general county business. All public comments should be directed to the county commission. We will hear from folks who are with us in person first, then online commenters. If you are joining us on Zoom, please use the raise your hand function when the time comes, and staff will call on and unmute you one at a time. 1 second, I apologize. Did a little bit of a restart on my computer and realized that I had a slightly older document. I apologize. Well, I will go ahead and do my best from memory at this point. All comments are limited to 3 minutes. At this time, we are not recording general public comment. It's so that our meetings remain accessible on our YouTube page for public access after a couple incidents of having meetings removed due to content of the general public comment. So at this time, those will not be recorded. Everything else will be available online. Everybody can view public comment here live in person, as well as live on Zoom during our meetings. And the rest of the business of the agenda for today will be uploaded to our YouTube after our meeting. Please do not disrupt the meeting. If you are providing public comment, we ask that you provide your name and Douglas County residence at the beginning of your public comment. If you're here in the building with us, Sarah over here will provide you with some reminders about time, since minutes are limited to 3. And if you are online, you'll be able to view that on your camera as well. For anybody who is online and only listening, but not viewing via a screen or smartphone or tablet, you can access the agenda online, which has all of the materials available for download. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with the consent agenda. Does either commissioner wish to remove anything? Does anybody in the public wish to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing no hands in the building, I'll see if anybody's raised their hand virtually. Okay, we'll bring that back for a motion. You don't answer questions in the middle, sorry.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Sorry, I am going to pause. Did you have a question about a specific consent agenda item that you would like to have further discussion about? I apologize. Can you tell me which item that is? 1.6. Okay. Our procedure is that we will remove that from the consent agenda, and then we can invite you to provide any questions that you have and comment. Would you like to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion to items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners, I can move Bob Tryansky, our Director of Behavioral Health Projects, into the panel to provide a presentation on item 1.6.
Okay, we want to have a presentation first. We'll turn it over to Bob.
Bob, you're in the panel. If you could just give us an overview of the item, that'd be great.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. The item before you is really an extension of a contract that expired at the end of 2021 with KU Med and the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health. Dr. Bruce Least has been involved with our Peer Fellows project for the last 2 years in 2 capacities: 1, supervising peers that were sponsored by KU Med and working in our community, and 2, guiding the weekly seminar that we have with the Peer Fellows on Wednesday afternoons from 10 to 1. So this contract basically extends that agreement. It's identical to the previous agreement with one exception. It allows for more flexibility for the peers that would be working under Dr. Lisa's supervision to serve a broader array of places in the community as we bring those peers on board.
Thank you, Bob. At this time, I'll ask if commissioners have any questions about that. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment, and you can go ahead and come forward to this microphone right here. You want to push the button so that you see a green light, and then state your name and make whatever comments you'd like. Button on the microphone.
My name is Therese Laughlin. I'm live just south of Baldwin in Douglas County. Part of my question is, since we're going to be discussing the mill levy possible increase, why do we not start cutting budget things now? A contract is already passed. Why give another 30,000 plus 17,000 for something that's not necessarily needed? Most homeowners and most residents are having to tighten their belt to try to meet needs, to pay their bills, and the contract's up. Why not cut it? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments about this particular item?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Justin Spees. I'm running as Republican candidate for Douglas County Commissioner in District 1, currently held by Patrick Kelly right there. And that is a good damn question. That was the exact question I was thinking as well. What's the justification for this? So thank you for asking that.
Any further public comments on this item? Has anybody raised their hand online, Sarah? Okay, bring this back for any discussion amongst commissioners. No, this is a consent agenda item. This is a continuation of a program that the commission has made a significant commitment to and is a key part of behavioral health projects across our community. And so this is something that I favor and support us continuing with. And this is separate from the particular budget, the 2023 proposed budget that we are here to discuss as part of our regular agenda later this evening.
And I'll just say I'm very supportive of this program. I know Dr. Lease very well and have met with peer fellows in our community and understand the work that they do. Helping those who are struggling with addiction or behavioral health issues is complex business. And I think these peer fellows provide a great support across our community to help those in need.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I just will echo what my fellow commissioners have said, that I am in support of this. I think when we do invest in behavioral health within our community, it also does pay off for us in the long run, because those are dollars that we aren't potentially investing long-term in our criminal legal system. And so focusing on prevention and behavioral health is a great use of dollars for our community. And I'm happy to make a motion to approve item 1.6, that a community partner agreement between Douglas County and the University of Kansas Department of Family Medicine and Community Health to provide up to $30,000 to support the personnel costs for 2 peer fellows and $17,000 to offset the related administration, supervision, and training costs.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to our general public comment, which, as a reminder, is an opportunity to make comment not about items on today's agenda, but other general county business that you would like to speak to the commission about. And Sarah looks like she's going to get the sign-in sheet for me. I will call those folks first, and then I will open it up and see if anybody else here and then online would like to make general public comment. Agenda. First, we have a presentation from the administration, or discussion from our administration staff about our 2023 proposed budget public hearing. Sarah?
Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to do a brief presentation on, as an opener for our public hearing on the 2023 budget. Let's see here. Sometimes I'm not as technically savvy as I. Okay. All right. So, here we go. All right. All right, thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity to provide a brief overview of the 2023 budget. The 2023 budget, and Eric, can I get you to come over and adjust the Zoom screen on the laptop so that they can see it? Thanks, Eric. There you go. I want to talk a little bit about our revenues for 2023. Sales tax is stable and slightly increasing for 2023 for Douglas County. Roughly only 10% of the county's budget is sales tax. That is different from cities. So if you live in an incorporated city, significant amount of their sales tax, of their all revenues for their operations come from sales tax. City of Lawrence, it's about 50% of their revenues come from sales tax. That includes all forms of the sales tax, including taxes on food. So cities are mostly funded by sales tax and property tax. Counties are largely funded by property tax. The 2023 assessed valuation growth was about 12.44%. Which is actually, when you look at the 10-year assessed valuation growth rate, the average for our growth rate is about 6% a year. 10-year average is 4.4% a year. 12.44 is a historically high assessed valuation growth. Last year, though, we were at 2.75. So when you average those 2 years out and you look at the last 5, we're about 6 in total. So
Please do not disrupt the meeting any further. If you do it one more time, I will ask deputies to escort you out of the building. Go ahead, Sarah.
So this year, the Kansas legislature required that every taxing jurisdiction, except themselves, prepare revenue neutral rates and send them to all jurisdictions, all property taxes, property owners in a particular county. So there's a lot of confusion sometimes on what revenue neutral rate is. And so, sorry, so.
Deputy, can you please make sure he leaves the building? Sorry for the interruption, Sarah. Thank you.
I do think it's, so counties, cities, and school districts were required to, actually, I don't think school districts were required. They were, okay. Okay, so cities and, for sure, cities and counties were required to notify the county clerk if they plan to increase their funding amount even $1. So that is a process that the county clerk has went through and then to prepare the revenue neutral rates. I think it is important to note that those notices talked about public hearings, and we've always had a public hearing for the adoption of a budget. In fact, for the development of this budget, we had over 20 hours of public meetings to develop this budget, including county commissioners, elected officials, department heads, and community partners. And I'm really proud of the time we invest in putting our budget together. So this has been a very deliberative process, and that's taken us several months to put together. I do want to point out that the proposed budget in front of the commission tonight for adoption does include a mill levy reduction of about 1 mil. So that would be lowering the rate at which taxes are assessed on properties. So this budget does include a mill levy reduction. I want to talk a little bit about fund balances. These funds represent our operating funds. So these are funds that are spent on operations. The Government Finance Officers of Association in about every business and accounting class you ever take is going to tell you that you should have a 3 months reserve, operating reserve, to finance your operations. Our operating reserve is 18%, which is actually a little less than that 3-month operating reserve. The county has worked very diligently to try to get our operating reserve to what is considered financially solvent and stable. Conversations, so we are at an 18% fund balance for our operating funds. There is some conversation about our capital fund balances. These capital fund balances were included in some of the stories in the journal world to include it in some of those totals. These capital reserve funds allow the county to not issue debt and pay as you go for capital improvements as much as possible, including the ongoing revenue into the countywide sales tax fund, which has had a lot of discussion lately publicly, are available to support debt for large capital projects without an additional tax increase. That fund, the countywide sales tax fund, could be used to expand the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center, the courthouse right over there, pay for this several $1 million in improvements to this 1905 courthouse that will be on your agenda next week. We're currently using it to finance the debt on our Public Works facility and our P25 Emergency Communication Center, which is 911, all the equipment in 911, and the center upgrades that were required by the federal government in 2013. One-time fund balance in that fund was used to finance the $7 million upgrade to the Douglas County Fairgrounds without issuing debt. Currently, this is the county's only ability to finance these infrastructure investments without a tax increase. Our CIP plan that you see on the next line covers 158 bridges, 1,079 culverts, 10 lane miles of concrete road, 386 miles of asphalt road, and 68 lane miles of rock road. Our equipment reserve on the line below pays for all of our equipment that we don't issue debt for, we don't lease, and we are not burdening future taxpayers with that ongoing debt. This timeline talks what we've been through to get us to the point of the budget adoption today. We start in late March with sending out forms and letters and communication to community partners and work through a proposed budget in April and May. We took a little break this year to work on American Rescue Plan Act allocations in June. We had over 20 hours of budget hearings in July, which brings us here to our budget adoption today. We did ask the commissioners to suspend specifically outlining our capital improvement plan because of the work we had to do with the American Rescue Plan Act funds, but our plan is to bring that back to the commission in October with a full detail of how we intend to spend our 5-year capital improvement plan. And with that, commissioners, I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that overview, and the timeline as well is helpful. Any questions for Sarah from commissioners at this time? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and open up this public hearing and invite public comment. You did not do a separate sign up sheet. I don't believe anybody signed up on that. Okay, so I will just, by show of hand, who would like to come and make public comment about this, you may come forward. Please remember to state your name and Douglas County residence for the record.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. I'm running for Douglas County Commissioner in District 1 as a Republican. Seats currently held by Patrick Gotten Off Track Kelly. So I'm not buying that justification for any of that. I mean, that was really, really brief. But I mean, just for an example, like renovating this courthouse, man, I go into like City Hall and the school district and I walk in. The first thing that goes through my mind is they spent a lot of unnecessary money on making this place look really fancy for no reason. It's just a bad look. It's not necessary. And what we're supposed to pay more because you guys want, I mean, this courthouse is awesome, man. It's got some good feel to it. Why we got to mess with it? And so, you know, LJ World ran this article on Saturday about these increases here, and they said basically what Sarah Plinsky just said there about how it's going to be a decrease now. So the revenue neutral mill is at roughly about 42. They're proposing 46, but they're going to actually vote for 45. So yeah, they're going to go down 1 mil off the proposal, but for you and me, it's going to go up 3. So your taxes are going up. And they're gonna say like, well, no, we're lowering it. What are you talking about? We're lowering it. So you vote for me for Douglas County Commissioner, I'm not gonna do what Patrick Kelly is about to do here. I'm gonna say we need to go under 42. I'm not gonna vote for anything over that. I want money start going back in your pocket. And what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do that? Where are we gonna start cutting? Well, I want to look at that emergency fund. That's a lot of money that the county has that you don't have. So they have a savings account. They're sitting fat for emergencies. You guys out there might not be, but who cares, right? When you vote communists in, that's what you get. The community's taken care of, but you guys are getting the squeeze there, and not just from the county, as you all know, it's coming from everywhere. So I just asked, like, why are we going to keep going down this same road? You know what you're getting here with these guys here. Sarah Plinsky quoted in the LJ World article as saying with the budget that they've gotten off track. They've gotten off track, and we're about to see it go even further off track. Just imagine where that's going to be in 4 years from now, how that's going to keep increasing. I mean, did you see those numbers? I mean, whoa, that growth is out of control. What are you guys doing? How did you guys allow that to happen? What's going on? One other thing that I'd like to look at in the budget that wasn't mentioned here is miscellaneous funds. Now we're talking tens of millions of dollars in miscellaneous funds. Some of it goes to behavioral health. Now they just voted $47,000 more into it earlier in this meeting here. But we're talking tens of millions of dollars and it's called miscellaneous. Where are them funds going? Who are those people? Who's getting that money? So I'd like to take a look at that as well. I think there's money there that can be cut, let alone from the redundancy that we see in the government here as well. There's positions on top of positions that seem unnecessary. Maybe we can start trimming them as well and see what we can do. But consider vote for me. I appreciate it.
Who else would like to provide public comment on this public hearing? Sir, I see you looking up ahead. Would you like to provide public comment about the budget? Go ahead, Linda. I see your hand now.
Hi, Linda Weinmaster again. Before I moved back to Lawrence and to take care of my grandkids 5 years ago, I lived in Colorado. And they had the Taxpayers Bill of Rights, abbreviated as TABOR, and it was to advocate for governments to stop overspending. In several years, we got a refund. It was really nice, but it kind of kept, I think that's a concept that we all should look into here in Douglas County and the state of Kansas, because it was fantastic. And it limited the growth and made you accountable. So I think that's what we should go for.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to provide public comment about the proposed budget? Please come forward, Amy.
Thank you. Well, I'm just wondering, you're like expanding the police station over here, but we have a new police station out there, which we didn't even vote for. And then we got a jail out here. And then we got some police stuff on 15th Street. This seems like a lot of different buildings. And there might be a way to save money if you get rid of one of those buildings. I don't know. You probably shouldn't have even built that one we didn't vote for, but yeah, that's all I'd like to say.
Is there anybody else who would like to provide comment?
Mine's just real quick, an observation that I got from the timeline. With your budget process, I noticed that at the beginning of the process, you talk to community partners, department heads, and elected officials. And it's not until it seems like you've pretty much already made up your mind, and when the public comment is allowed, and I guess this is it, right? When, no? Okay. Well, maybe, is there another point in the process for future reference when, kind of we, the people that aren't community partners or department heads or elected officials, participate in that?
We do not generally engage in a back and forth, but I will state that all of our hearings earlier this summer were public, and the community is welcome to attend those, observe those, and engage with county commissioners either during public comment or regular meetings before this hearing or outside of our meetings individually through email or phone correspondence.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment about this agenda item?
Hi, my name's Travis Hardy. And I mean, I don't know how everybody else is. I just want to let you know, where I work, we don't get raises that keep up with inflation. Last couple of years, it keeps, less money. And so spending any more money on stuff, and a lot of this stuff, I mean, may be great, but honestly, it's stuff that I don't want. I mean, I don't use, right? And I don't like spending money on things that I don't have any use for. And when I see things going up and up and up, and then I see up here, we get a fund, kind of we can put money in here and we don't have to raise taxes, which is great. But that money is being spent. When is the people get asked, do we want that money spent on that? I mean, sometimes they put things on the ballot, say, do we want to do this? And a lot of these budget things don't seem like they ever really make it to the ballot. I mean, why don't we put it on there and say, let the people vote if we want to do this? And that doesn't seem to happen. And kind of what was brought up earlier, it's like, so when does the community get to engage with you guys? I mean, we get to stand up here and can kind of have this, but when do we ever get to have a sit down, like back and forth? Because there's really not a conversation. We get to speak, but then there's nothing coming back. I mean, it's kind of a one-way conversation. I mean, it'd be nice to have community involvement both ways and have like a public forum where we can talk back and forth. And, it just seems like you guys kind of come up with budgets and do all this stuff, but yet it affects us and we don't really have a lot of input. I just think that we really need to change that process and try to make it more for the people, because any money that we put in there that's in this miscellaneous account, I mean, that's money we didn't say it could go in there. I mean, it just went in there. We don't get it back. And so we don't really have any say of this extra money that we gave in. Now, what does it do? And I just don't think that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public comment about this item? Okay, seeing no more hands in the room with us, I'll see if anybody is online. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment for this item and bring it back for discussion. I just want to acknowledge that taxes are pretty complex, and so I appreciate that there is a lot of information and a lot of new information this year due to those revenue neutral notices that people have received. And so I like to think that that's an opportunity for us to have these conversations. More of the public is engaging with commissioners and asking questions about that. And so I appreciate, Sarah, your overview and explanation of some of those pieces. I am really proud of our budget process and how transparent and thorough that I believe it is. I think that our budget staff does a really good job of bringing the commissioners and options ahead of us. And in this year's instance, we did have historically high valuation, which impacts all things. And we had a number of additional requests made of outside of sort of operational cost across departments and community partners, and the things that are part of every year's budget year after year that also have rising costs and expenses that are being felt in this economy. And so this year we were brought a budget, and I think from day one of our budget hearings, this commission, all three of us were committed to figuring out what some key investment opportunities were that we had some money for, while still continuing to support our fund balances, which is important for the reasons described before, in order to be able to take out less debt, if any debt, for capital projects and be able to pay as we go. And this commission remained committed to, I think, being pretty bare bones about those additional requests and saying no to a number of things so that we could bring down the mill levy somewhat and help impact, help lower the impact of that historical valuation this year. So I just want to state that I think I empathize absolutely with the real life impact, especially for folks who are on fixed incomes, and that everybody is feeling that, and that as are governments and companies as well. And the fund balances that we have are an important part of our why our budget is in, why it has a AAA rating, why we have successful audits, and why we are able to pay for capital projects that are important for this community's growth and that are necessary. And the demand for government services will only grow with the growth of this community. And so I am proud of how we got to this proposed budget and think that we had significant conversations during our hearings earlier this summer, and know that we will have more conversations related to the CIP in October.
Throughout our budget hearings, I really try to balance the programs and services that we're providing and what the community tells us that we need against the burden that happens to the individual taxpayer. And I understand and appreciate those who bring forward to us that even though we're lowering the mill levy, it is increasing the total tax payment that some people will be making. One of the things that's in this budget is a 2.2% or $2 million increase for employees in Douglas County. I think in order for us to continue to hire highly qualified staff, provide them with a wage that allows them to live in Douglas County, we need to address that. If we hold to that revenue neutral rate, we would not be able to provide those kind of market adjustments. We would continually be behind other counties, and we would have to continue to cut even more services. So while I understand those who say, well, hold that revenue neutral rate, I think we have to account for the increased costs that we have and the importance of taking care of our excellent county employees. As far as fund balances go, I think it's really important for people to understand how county budgets work and the limitations made upon counties by the state legislature on what you can do with debt. It is actually fiscally more responsible for us to build up those savings and then do those, what Sarah referred to as pay-as-you-go projects, because then we're not paying for any interest that we would incur through that debt. So while I understand that the paper represents that as a savings fund, I'm thinking that maybe that isn't the best representation of that fund, seeing how it is actually being put aside for very specific capital projects that we're working on, and Sarah listed a number of those. So I understand and I appreciate those folks who come out and share with us their concerns. Travis, thanks for your comments. I really appreciate it. And I can understand how some would like us to vote on every piece of the budget. I think that our government isn't designed that way. It's designed as a representative government, and then we make those choices. So I can see that. I'm always happy to meet with community members as long as they stay respectful and we can have a good comment about ideas and not individual people. So I appreciate that, and I hear what you said. But I'm confident in the budget. I appreciate the work of commissioners. Every budget is a compromise, and I think it was a great process. I appreciate Cammie and Sarah and your great work and your whole team's work on developing the budget. And I appreciate all those folks who came out tonight and respectfully addressed the commission to share their concerns. I take all those concerns very seriously.
Justin, please stop disrupting the meeting. Please sit and join us for the rest of the meeting quietly. Justin, please stop disrupting the meeting.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I just want to echo some of the comments that my fellow commissioners have made and say a few things about kind of budgets generally and ours in particular. Budgets at their core are values documents. They get to the things that we really care about as a community and the things that we are willing to put our money behind. And one of the things that I'm really proud of when it comes to Douglas County is how incredibly transparent our entire county staff are with our budget. So Sarah mentioned that we had over 20 hours of public hearings. Those 20 hours of public hearings were also the culmination of a lot of work by our county staff. And I really appreciate the work that goes into pulling together all of the individual departments, all of our community partner asks, all of the requests that we have within our budget, where we ask not only for how much money folks need, but also what that money is going to do within our community and our community partners in particular. We ask them how it's going to further equity within our community. And I think that those discussions become incredibly important ways for us to think through what are our values as a community. And this summer, we did have record valuation increases, which meant that without changing the mill rate, we were starting with a lot more funding within our budget. We were able to decrease that mill rate, but we also were able to invest in a lot of the things that my fellow commissioners have talked about, including market increases for our staff and making sure that we're funding the kinds of programs that we need to have a high quality of life within Douglas County. So I'm deeply appreciative to the staff for all the work that you put into the budget. Really appreciative to my fellow commissioners for all of the hours that we deliberate over the budget, and really appreciative to our community who is incredibly engaged. This is not the process that most local governments go through when it comes to budgets. We actually do have a very open and deliberative process that takes a lot of investment from our community and from our elected officials. So I am very grateful to be a part of that process.
This is Commissioner Reed. Justin, I'm going to ask you to please stop disrupting us. I just want to piggyback off something that both my fellow commissioners mentioned, and pointed out that investment in paying more for our employees. And I think that a lot of conversations I've had with folks in the past few days and in the past week or so, I've talked a lot about how upsetting and frustrating it is for people to watch the cost of things rise while wages and wage amounts and benefit amounts tend to not rise with those costs. And I think most people, most industries are feeling that. And so that particular investment in our proposed budget to me is a representation of our commission significantly values our employees and having those high quality employees. And we value leading by example, that in our local community, we are leading by trying to do what we can to increase wages to help more residents in our community. So I appreciate both commissioners pointing that out, because I do think it's an important investment that we made this year. Any closing thoughts or further comments? Sarah, did you have something to add?
I just want to remind commissioners that once they make the motion, we need to do a roll call vote. So once we have a second, I'll call the roll and take the vote that way.
Thanks, Sarah.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I'm happy to make a motion. I move to adopt the 2023 operating budget and a county resolution to levy a property tax rate for Douglas County and Douglas County Cemetery Special Districts within Douglas County budget exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Second.
All those in favor?
We have to go.
Oh, yeah, so, sorry, Sarah.
Commissioner Portillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
The vote passes 3-0.
Thank you. Next on our regular agenda is item 3.2. A combined public hearing to receive public comment on and adopt the Consolidated Fire District Number 1 budget.
Commissioners, you as the county commission also stands as the Board of Fire or Fire Board for Consolidated Fire District Number 1, which represents folks who live in Eudora Township, Wakarusa Township, Clinton Township, Lecompton Township, and Kanawaka Township. We included information on Consolidated Fire District Number One's budget and was a part of our budget deliberations in July. And that budget is before you. I don't have any additional information to present on it. They have a flat mill levy, which has been consistent since the creation of the district.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah on this item? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public hearing on the public hearing, public comment on this public hearing. Anybody in the commission room wish to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing no hands, I'll double check if anybody's on Zoom. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment on this hearing and bring it back for discussion. Appreciate the overview. Thank you for being here with us, Chief. And I think without further ado, we can move on and make a motion, and it's another roll call, correct, Sarah? Okay. This Commissioner Reed, I move to adopt the 2023 budget for Consolidated Fire District Number One and a resolution to levy a property tax exceeding revenue neutral rate.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Portillo?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
The vote passes 3-0.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 3.3. Sarah, are you kicking us off for this? Are you gonna introduce it?
I'm
or
going to
is Jay
introduce some
coming up?
folks that are with
Okay.
us today to talk about the request from Center for Supportive Communities. As commissioners know, as a part of our budget deliberations, we had conversations about the, oh,
Sarah.
I missed one. Sorry, I'm so eager. So I'm going to ask Jay Zimmershed to come to the podium and talk about the issuance of an RFP for the review of our master plan and update for design and to enter into design services for the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center right next door. This has been a part of the county's process to evaluate the space needs at the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center. As the commissioners know, and I think the public knows, that the state has given us an additional judge. So we need to find space and make room for that inside that. And then a number of issues associated with the courthouse were outlined in the master plan report. This will eventually lead to costs associated with building the design for a remodel of the jail. So we wanted to make sure the commissioners were comfortable with the issuance of the RFP. Jay, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it pretty well, really. I do think it's important to recognize that the RFP before you is set up in two phases. One is a revisitation and update of the master plan that was performed in 2020. And after following that effort, that information would be brought back before the commission before any kind of additional work would be issued associated with implementation of that work. So, but other than that, I think Sarah covered it pretty well. The additional judge that we have kind of puts us in a pinch to find a space, and improving best judicial practices for separation of all those groups involved in the justice process. That our courthouse, the JLE, not this courthouse, really was never designed to kind of implement. Those best practice guidelines weren't around back in the 70s when the building was constructed. So I think she covered most everything else. There is a schedule attached to the RFP. That's a rough schedule, assuming that all of this kind of met with BOCC approval. It certainly can change slightly as we would need it to, but if moving forward today with your approval, I think that schedule would still hold.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions from commissioners?
Jay, when we think about the review and the update of the existing master plan, there was a ton of work put into that. What things do you see that might be adjusted based on that review?
I think probably the biggest piece is that we've kind of experienced a worldwide pandemic, and the look of how simply people are officing today looks different than it did in 2019. Add the fact that the judicial process is very hands-on typically. I think looking at how the pandemic has affected it, we've also seen again unprecedented supply chain disruption specifically, I don't know if it's specifically, but especially in the construction industry. The ability to accomplish projects is so hampered by when you can get pieces to integrate them and get them, constructed as you have to through a building. So there are a number of those kind of pieces, but if I really had to look at it, I would say the pandemic and how we apply justice through a process like that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I ever did a Zoom meeting before 2019, and now it's almost commonplace. And so how some of that might impact the services that we provide to the public, I think is probably one of the biggest pieces to really be looked at. We're also looking as part of that overall master plan and how it affects that building, how we might consolidate other county departments to begin to create, one, some efficiencies in delivery of service, but two, to save money. If we can figure out how to get people into buildings without either leasing other space, we're actually saving money and being more responsible with public dollars. And so I think a significant amount of attention needs to be paid to that by whatever consultant would kind of be doing this revisitation of the master plan. But does that answer your question?
It does. This is Commissioner Kelly again. So do you think that might actually, I'm just trying to process what you just said. It might change the phasing of the project as described earlier, which things happen when because of supply chain issues. I'm trying to understand how supply chain issues might change that master plan.
I think it's more related to the price estimates that were included in the
Price
master plan.
estimates, okay. Is that correct, Jay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
thanks.
Any other questions from commissioners? I don't have any questions, but appreciate the overview and the attachment. And I'm as somebody who spends a whole lot of time in both these buildings, but especially the JLE building in my day job, I'm excited to see what the kind of reworking of it will look like. And it does seem that there's been significant changes in the way courts in particular function over the past couple of years. So I imagine some potentially dramatic changes to what that original workup was. With that, did you have any?
I was just going to say dramatic changes over the past decades,
Well,
not just years, but yes, also
true.
years.
True.
Both and.
Acutely
Mhm.
in the past couple of years,
Accurate.
but yes, thank you for the perspective, Commissioner Portillo. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and open this item up for public comment. Is there anybody in the building that wishes to provide public comment on this item? Seeing none, double check for any virtual raised hands. Okay, close this and bring it back for any further comments, discussions, or motion.
I just appreciate the work and going back. We have different elected officials in some of those roles now than we did in 2019. So I think that would have an impact as well. And in fact, the commission has approved some things in our budget that we just approved tonight that are going to impact that courthouse as well, the self-help desk and things like that. So I appreciate revisiting it. I think I get excited about this project, to be honest with you. I think we can do a better job over there in our judicial service. Not that the people aren't doing a good job, the people are doing a great job, but the use of the built environment, I think, can really be improved over there and will help better services for those in our county that are using our judicial services.
I have one last comment, which is I'm very excited about the prospect of the name changes for the building. I was rereading that review and think that that's a very important piece because I spend a lot of time clearing up confusion about which courthouse people are actually going to for court. Any further comments before I hear a motion?
This is Commissioner Portillo. I'm happy to make a motion. I move to authorize county staff to advertise the RFP for professional design services for the Douglas County Master Plan Review and update to the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center remodel project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Thanks, Jay. All right, Sarah, would you like to introduce us for item 3.4 and introduce our guests for that?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was a little early. Item 3.4 is related to 2022, so current year funding for the Center for Supportive Communities. The commissioners discussed in our budget deliberations for elementary and middle school truancy programs for the last several decades. Douglas County partnered with the University of Kansas School of Social Welfare to help provide that programming. The University of Kansas has changed some of their offerings and is no longer going to support that program. And it is instead sort of, we need to find another opportunity to partner with students at the University of Kansas to help provide some of these opportunities. So we heard a number of presentations about truancy from the Center for Supportive Communities. This would help fund the continuation, so there's not a lapse or a break in that programming related to elementary and middle school truancy. So Pam Weegen, our Director of Criminal Justice Services, is here, and also Dr. Dockman with the Center for Supportive Communities are here to answer any questions you might have on this item. I don't know if you guys want to come up and say a few words, Dr. Dockman or Pam.
So I was just
It's
gonna
really okay.
invite you all to come
Right.
add to anything Sarah provided to us.
Thank you for the time this evening. This is great. Good. Yeah, I just can't stress enough the importance of engaging elementary and middle school students to get them engaged in school. I think it's a big predictor of the kids who end up in the deep end of the system because of lack of engagement. And we've worked with Kelsey and Madison for a number of years at Youth Services, providing the truancy program through KU's Applied Behavioral Sciences Department. I think Kelsey was with the program 8 years, and Madison's at least what, 2, 3. I'll see, time flies. So we really feel like this is a great partnership. We've already got 17 kids slotted for truancy right from the get-go of this semester, and we anticipate far more referrals as the semester continues. So I don't know if Kelsey wanted to talk about anything. They really won't bite you.
This is Dr. Dockman. I just wanted to also stress the fact that our program has been around as the KU Truancy Prevention and Diversion Program. It did change to support ed once we left the university, but we have been operating successfully since 1979. And I would say that our schools, our families, our community honestly relies on our services. And the only way that we will be able to provide those services in the fall is if we do secure some funding from the county.
Thank you, Dr. Dockman. And thank you, Pam, for your comments. Any questions for either of our guests? Okay, or Sarah, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
This Commissioner Kelly, Sarah, it doesn't include in here what fund this comes from.
Well, Commissioners, this was an unbudgeted expense. And I would attribute the cost to either the Commissioner's budget. It would come out of, it'd be unanticipated costs that we didn't anticipate this year. So it could impact our general fund balances in terms of year end. But I do believe that this amount is something that we can support and meet our general fund ending fund balances, given where we are in the year at this time.
So I just want to be clear about that. We have fund balances in case emergencies arise, like community partners, just go away, like in this case of KU's partnership with this. And these fund balances are used in these emergency situations to fund these things. Is that correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Does anybody in the building wish to provide public comment about this item? Okay, seeing no raised hands, I'll check for virtual hands. Sarah, okay. Close public comment and bring this back for any further discussion. I will just note that I definitely support this request. I think that it is unfortunate that KU decided to stop this program without warning, really. And I do not want to see students and families, for that matter, falling through the cracks across our community as a ripple effect of that. So I believe that this is aligned with the county's values, and an important investment to make. And I'm happy to support it, and also hopeful that, the new structure of the Center for Supportive Communities really has the opportunity to grow and expand their reach across our county and provide those prevention opportunities, both for students, but also their families as a whole.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I'm happy to make a motion.
I have a comment.
Oh,
before
go,
you do.
go for it.
I have a comment.
What's that, Sarah?
Well, I was going to add too, I know commissioners outlined in the 2023 budget development process that we want to spend some time working this fall on how we're going to collaborate and coordinate between our truancy efforts. We've already had some great conversations with Dr. Dockman and the CSC team. They put additional information together. We're working with O'Connell Children's Shelter to get additional information from them. Once I have that, I think Pam's going to help us pull all those pieces together and bring that back before the commission so that we can have continued conversation about what truancy programming looks like in Douglas County into 2023. So I just didn't want you forgetting that I haven't forgotten that either. So.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I really appreciate the county's partnership with the school districts in Douglas County on this program. I can tell you firsthand, it means a lot to our buildings. It means a lot to our teachers and our families that to have this support. And for the public that's not aware, we are unique in Kansas by providing this kind of truancy support. And I think it leads to stronger schools and stronger communities and smaller jails and all those things. My only request is that as we have that conversation, Sarah, that we start talking right away about those metrics that we want to keep and we want to monitor, to see, what success looks like for us, set some goals and set some data indicators that can tell us, that we're making progress on this challenge. It would be awful not to have this service in place, as we're not done with the pandemic, but as we come out of kids being out of school quite a bit, if we didn't have this truancy support, we would be playing catch up for years to come, because once those behaviors are in place where students are missing school, it takes a long time to change those behaviors. So I think it's really important that we fund this now, even as we're having conversations about how to improve truancy services.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Ready for that motion, Commissioner Portillo?
Right, I move to approve the 2022 finance request from the Center for Supportive Communities for elementary and middle school truancy in the amount of $81,931.50.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda for tonight. We'll move on to appointments. Sarah, I did see that you sent a couple, but I would like to have some follow-up. Would like to pause on
fine.
that, and I know it's kind of in advance, but are there any other appointments to discuss that commissioners have on their mind? Okay, we'll move on to your weekly memo, Sarah.
Thank you, commissioners. My weekly memo is attached. I do want to point special attention out to in my weekly memo is a report prepared by Douglas County Public Works staff related to the South Wakarusa Drive Extension Project and the work, some of the work and research that's gone behind why that project has such a prominent place in our CIP. We are working, staff is working and working with Public Works staff, planning staff, and our communication staff to schedule a community town hall conversation. I don't have a date yet. I'll let you know as soon as I've got a date. But to try to have a community town hall conversation about that. But we wanted to get that report out to make sure it was public and it could be widely distributed with some additional information on that. I also want to add that since this literally went to press, I have added, if commissioners are okay for it, I'd like to add a work session to next week's meeting if commissioners are available at 4. If not, I can try to push it out. But it would be a work session on the waterproofing and restoration work for the historic courthouse. We've received the report from Hernley and Associates about their cost estimates for the waterproofing on this project. So I'd like to do that at 4 if we could.
I'm available.
Yep, I can make it work.
It's fine with me, but only if we have cupcakes for your birthday, Sarah, on that.
Well, we'll
That's
see
Yeah.
what we can do. Right, it is my birthday, so, yeah. So,
memory.
I will add that to the agenda and I look forward to having that conversation. And commissioners, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. This is Commissioner Reed. I just want to point out one piece of the memo that I appreciated reading, which was a letter from the Property Valuation Division of the state that pointed out the efforts of our county. The specific quote is that the efforts of your county appraiser and appraisal staff to successfully complete the appraisal cycle in a satisfactory manner are to be commended. Accurately appraising properties is without a doubt a difficult task. And so I just want to appreciate our staff for that commitment. And it was a very high score, and I'm proud of that work and that it is fair and equal treatment. Any other miscellaneous items for the good of the order this evening?
So I'd like to update commissioners a little bit on, we just had our meeting of the EDC, the Economic Development Council, on Friday. Significant conversation around the new Panasonic plant in DeSoto and how that will impact Douglas County. Mayor Tim Reason from Eudora was there and walked us through some of the development plans and some of the things that Eudora is thinking about right now. I appreciate chamber staff who work with that EDC, working with the EDC board as a whole to talk about what steps we might take to make sure that we have a regional approach to thinking about actions and behaviors around Panasonic's factory there and how it will impact Douglas County. So I know there's going to be more to report very soon, but I just wanted to report to commissioners that was a very robust conversation. And I think it's something that the commission is going to be very involved with moving forward as this impacts our community.
This is Commissioner Portillo. We had the Racial Disparities Work Group meeting this afternoon, and it was fantastic to have Katie Fitzgerald, our new CJCC coordinator there. One of the really important discussions that we had is that our CJCC has a number of work groups and they're organized in a number of themes that may need to be updated, because as we know, we want racial equity and justice to be a part of everything that we're doing. And so there are some ways that we might end up reorganizing a bit. And I'm excited for Katie to bring her ideas and for us to have a really deep dive in CJCC to say, where have we been? Where are we at? What do we want this work to look like going forward? But I was particularly impressed with our community members who made it clear that they want to see this work continue to move forward and think through how do we embed racial justice work in everything we're doing as we talk about the criminal justice system and as we talk about broader systems, because we spent a lot of time talking about fines and fees. There's another fines and fees work group. So how do we make sure that we're having talk across these work groups and making the best use of time and being as efficient as possible with the massive lift that is our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. So very excited that we have Katie here to organize our work and herd all of the cats and get us together to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. So just an update on that, and I'm excited to see what they do from afar long term.
I'm certain that that page is bookmarked on your computer, Commissioner Portillo, and you will continue to watch from afar. Okay, I don't have anything to add, so thank you everybody for your time. We are adjourned.